When I was young, I thought the world was a giant vending machine. You press a button and you get what you want. My father was the one who put the money in the machine. He was a very successful builder. He built hotels, offices, and luxury apartments. Because he was rich, I thought I was rich too. I lived in a house with a swimming pool and a garden that felt like a park. My bedroom was filled with things I did not need. I had 3 gaming computers, 50 pairs of shoes, and clothes I only wore once. Every morning, our cook made me a breakfast that looked like a king's meal. I never said thank you. I thought it was my right to have these things. I did not like school. Why study math when I can hire an accountant? Why study English when I can hire a translator? I spent my classes looking out the window, dreaming about my next party. My friends were just like me. We talked about cars, girls, and expensive watches. We laughed at people who worked hard. We called them the grey people because their lives seemed boring and dusty. My father was often away. When he came home, he was always covered in a little bit of dust. His shoes were never shiny. I remember one day I bought a new watch that cost $5,000. I showed it to him. "Look, father, it's limited edition," I said. He looked at the watch, then he looked at my hands. "It's a beautiful watch, Leo," he said quietly. "But does it tell you the value of a minute or just the time?" I didn't understand him. I just laughed and went to my room to take a photo for social media. Everything changed on my 21st birthday. I expected a sports car. I had already picked the color, bright red. But that morning there was no car in the driveway. My father was waiting for me in the kitchen. He wasn't wearing his suit. He was wearing old jeans and a heavy flannel shirt. "Happy birthday, Leo," he said. "Thanks, Dad. Where is it? Is it in the garage?" I asked, my heart beating fast. "The car is not here," he said. "But your gift is waiting. Put on some old clothes. We are going out." I was confused, but I followed him. We drove for an hour. We left the beautiful part of the city and entered an industrial area. There were no trees here, just grey buildings and smoke. My father stopped the truck in front of a massive construction site. "Why are we here?" I asked, feeling a bit annoyed. The dust was already getting on my expensive leather jacket. "This is where I started 30 years ago," my father said. He pointed to a group of men carrying heavy bags of cement. "And this is where you start today." I stared at him. Is this a joke? It's my birthday. My father looked at me with a face of stone. "You are 21. You are a man. But you don't know what a man is. You think a man is someone who spends money. No. A man is someone who provides value. Today you will provide value." He handed me a pair of heavy yellow boots and a hard hat. "If you leave, don't come back to the house. The credit cards are turned off. The phone plan is cancelled. The choice is yours." I looked at the dusty ground. I looked at his serious eyes. I realized he wasn't joking. I took the boots. My supervisor was a man named Mr. Stark. He had skin like leather and a voice like a broken engine. He didn't care who my father was. "You," he barked, pointing at me. "See that pile of bricks? Move them to the 3rd floor. Use the pulley for the big loads, but move the corners by hand." The sun was starting to burn. I picked up 2 bricks. They were rough and heavy. After 10 minutes, my arms felt tired. After 1 hour, my shoulders were burning. I looked at my hands. My soft white fingers were turning red. Small bubbles, blisters, were forming on my palms. "I need a break!" I shouted. Mr. Stark walked over. He didn't look sympathetic. "The wall doesn't wait for your break. The cement is drying. Move!" I hated him. I hated the bricks. I hated the sun. I saw my father in the distance. He was talking to some architects. He looked at me once, but he didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just turned back to his work. At noon, a whistle blew. It was lunchtime. I sat down on a pile of wood, exhausted. My body felt like it had been hit by a truck. I had no lunch. I had forgotten to bring anything. I watched the other workers. They sat in a circle. They had simple plastic boxes with rice, beans, and some meat. An older man named Marco sat near me. He saw my empty hands. "First day is always the hardest, kid," he said. He broke his bread in half and gave me a piece. "Eat. You can't move bricks with an empty stomach." I was so hungry, I didn't even say thank you at first. I just ate. It was just plain bread. But it tasted better than any steak I had ever eaten in a 5-star restaurant. "Why do you do this?" I asked Marco. "It's so hard." Marco smiled, showing a missing tooth. "I have a daughter. She wants to be a doctor. Every brick I move is a page in her medical book. When I see her study, the pain in my back goes away." I looked at my red hands. I had never done anything for anyone else. I felt very small. The weeks passed. The first week, I cried every night in my bed. My muscles ached so much I couldn't sleep. But by the 3rd week, something strange happened. I stopped feeling the pain. My muscles became hard. My blisters turned into calluses. My skin became dark from the sun. I started to learn things. I learned that if you don't lay the first row of bricks perfectly straight, the whole wall will be crooked. I learned how to mix cement, not too wet, not too dry. I learned the names of the tools, the trowel, the level, the square. I also stopped thinking about my old friends. They called me at first, asking me to go to parties. "I can't," I said. "I have to be at the site at 6 a.m. "Are you crazy?" They laughed. "Just tell your dad you're sick." I looked at my hands, now covered in grey dust. "No," I said. "I have a wall to finish." One afternoon, a heavy rain started. The site became a sea of mud. Most people wanted to stop, but we had a deadline. Mr. Stark was worried. I stepped forward. "I'll stay," I said. "I can finish the waterproofing." Mr. Stark looked at me. For the first time, he didn't bark. He nodded. "Good lad. Get it done." I worked in the rain for 4 hours. I was wet, cold, and dirty. But inside I felt a strange heat. It was the heat of pride. I wasn't Leo, the rich kid. I was Leo, the guy who gets the job done. After a month, it was payday. We stood in line at the small office on the site. When it was my turn, Mr. Stark handed me a yellow envelope. "You earned this," he said. "You're a good worker, Leo." I opened the envelope. Inside was $800. In my old life, I would spend $800 on a pair of sunglasses without thinking. But as I held this money, my hands shook. I knew exactly what this money was. It was 30 days of waking up before the sun. It was thousands of bricks. It was gallons of sweat. It was the pain in my lower back and the dust in my lungs. This money was mine. That evening, I didn't go to a club. I went to a small market. I bought a high-quality leather tool belt. Then I went home. My father was in his study, reading a report. "I bought this with my own money," I said. I walked in and put the tool belt on his desk. My father stood up. He touched the leather of the belt. Then he looked at me. He didn't look at my clothes or my hair. He looked at my eyes. "Your eyes are different," he said. "They are focused now." "I used to think you were lucky, Dad," I said. "I thought you just had money. But now I know you didn't have money. You built money. There is a big difference." My father smiled. It was the warmest smile I had ever seen. "Now you are ready to learn how to run a business. Because you cannot lead people if you don't understand their struggle." 6 months later, I was no longer moving bricks. My father brought me into the office to learn about contracts, architecture, and engineering. But I was different from the other young executives. When I walked through the construction sites, I didn't just look at the progress. I looked at the men. I knew when they were tired. I knew when the equipment was bad. I made sure they had better food and better safety gear. I respected them, and because of that, they respected me. One day, I saw a young man standing near a pile of sand. He was wearing expensive white sneakers and looking at his phone, looking bored and annoyed. He was the son of one of our investors. "Is this boring for you?" I asked him. "Yeah," he said. "My dad is making me hang out here. It's so dirty. I can't wait to go back to the city." I smiled and handed him a shovel. "Don't worry," I said. "The dirt washes off. But the things you learn while you're dirty, those stay with you forever." I looked at my own hands. They weren't soft anymore. They were the hands of a builder. And finally, I was proud of them. I am older now. My father has retired, and I run the company. We build beautiful things all over the world. People think I am successful because of the towers I build or the money in my bank account. But they are wrong. My success is not in the buildings. My success is in the discipline. I learned when the sun was hot and the bricks were heavy. I learned that life is not about what is given to you. It is about what you create. Hard work is not a punishment. It is a gift. It gives you a clear mind, a strong body, and a soul that knows its own value. When I have children, I will not give them a red sports car for their birthday. I will give them a pair of boots and a task. Because I love them, and I want them to be as rich as I am, not in money, but in character.